Will Hardy sounds off, sets the standard. What's he talking about it? We're going to hit it next on Locked on Jazz. Bum 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 pow.
You are Locked on Jazz, your daily podcast on the Utah Jazz. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
How are you? I'm David Locke, radio voice of the Utah Jazz, Jazz NBA insider. On today's show, Will Hardy sounds off. Your stats don't mean beep to me. We're going to discuss why Will Hardy sounded off after the Timberwolves game, setting the standard for the Utah Jazz. Why and what that means and where it's coming from. Matchups from the Timberwolves. We play them again, so that gets really interesting. Different personnel, though, very much in this game, as we may see Lauri Markkanen, John Collins, and Rudy Gobert, who we did not see. And it's a Trends Monday. We'll break down who looks good, who doesn't. What's happened to the Clippers? And the Pelicans are everyone's darling right now. We'll touch on all those things on a Trends Monday. I am David Locke, radio voice of the Utah Jazz, Jazz NBA insider. This is Locked on Jazz. It's your daily podcast on the Utah Jazz, giving you insight, expertise, geeky numbers, and hopefully making it way better to be a Jazz fan each and every day. Thank you so much for making Locked on Jazz your first listen of the day. And thank you to the everydayers out there who join us each and every day. By the way, stickers are back. Have them at the arena. If you're at the game tonight on a Monday night and you want a sticker, stop by. I'll have more. Ben Russell, my audio engineer, has them. So we have them for you. And we are free and available on all podcasting apps as well as on YouTube. Thanks very much for tuning in. Today's show is brought to you in part by LinkedIn. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find qualified candidates when you want to talk to faster. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedonnba. That's linkedin.com/lockedonnba to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. How is everybody today? Hope you're great. It was really gorgeous this weekend. Actually, yesterday took Alan Horton, the Timberwolves play-by-play announcer, out skiing. He's a beautiful skier. I hadn't skied in a long time, and so we got him out on the mountain. And I had a marvelous day yesterday at Park City. So, taking advantage of this beautiful place we live right now. All right, so Will Hardy after the game said, stats don't mean beep. I don't care about your individual stats. I don't care what you post on Instagram. I've said this before, and I'll say it again. There will not be free minutes in our program. So who and what is he talking about? The first thing he's talking about is this is the challenge right now. With the team no longer winning games, with the team no longer in a playoff position, it's really easy for it all to come unraveled. Guys like me are looking at Tankathon, looking at we're ninth again, taking a big sigh of relief because we moved to 10th for a moment, which gets scary because there's a 24% chance we still lose our pick then. And then none of this is worth it, or less worth it than it would probably be a better way to say that. And so therefore, that's the first thing, is that right now, with all this going on and the team struggling to find W's, and a little bit, we're into a game of where we're watching personal development. Taylor Hendricks improved offensive plays recently. Some of the defensive stuff, Keontae's improved this. Bryce Sensabaugh, like those are the exciting things for us. And when the focus gets around individuality, it's very important for Will Hardy to set the standard of what this team is and what he thinks is acceptable and what he thinks is not acceptable. So that's the first thing that he's doing, is setting the standard. The second thing is true to him. There will not be free minutes in our program. And so in his mind, Bryce Sensabaugh, Taylor Hendricks earned their minutes with their G League time, and it was time for them to have opportunities. But now that they're here, they don't just get 33 or 27 minutes each night, guaranteed no matter what. And that also goes for any of the other guys. There are not, it is the comment of there are not free minutes in our program are particularly identified to younger players. In other words, when in training camp this year, it was abundantly clear that Kelly Olynyk and a bunch of the other guys outplayed Taylor Hendricks. He did not, just because he was the 9th pick of the draft, garner the right, just for solely being the 9th pick of the draft, to go play 20 minutes a night. That is not how Will Hardy's going to run his program. You're going to earn those 20 minutes a night, or in this case, Taylor's now played 33 the other night, to be able back on the floor and to earn those minutes with your time, your performance. And when you're out of the floor, you have to play the right way. This is vitally important to the long-term piece of this program. And you can really lose it right about now. You can really, in this final stretch, when you're not playing for standings and you're playing for individual moments, you can really lose it. You can lose the focus on what's good and what's bad. And so I think that, that's what you're hearing from Will. Like, he is going to keep coaching this down to the 82nd game. They're going to do shoot around today and play to win. And Will's playing every game to win. The roster may not allow him to win, and there may be some long-term developmental things, such as tonight, if Lauri Markkanen's back, we'll see probably Lauri Markkanen getting the ball at the free throw line or the elbow on an isolation, which might not necessarily be the perfect play at the time, but it's an important play for Lauri's long-term development. And we're willing to have some moments right now that are developmental based for the long term of the program, rather than necessarily trying to win that given night. But that does not mean that the standards and the way the game's going to be played are allowed to go wildly out the window. And that's what Will Hardy's basically saying. Stats don't mean beep. I don't care about your individual stats. I don't care what you post on Instagram. I've said this before, and I'll say it again. There will not be free minutes in our program. That's the standard. That's the standard if you're going to play for Will Hardy and the Utah Jazz moving forward. Why? What was it that set him off? I don't know specifically, but I think I have a pretty good idea. Because when calling the game, I was talking about it a great deal. Minnesota plays a defense. They're one of two teams in the NBA that cuts off the rim, and also denies threes. Now, they're usually able to do that with Rudy Gobert. And they didn't have Rudy, and they didn't have Cat. And so they're playing Naz Reid, and they were shifting more dramatically than they usually were. And so when you drove into the paint the other night, they had decided they were going to still cut off the rim. When Rudy's on the floor, teams take 6% less shots at the rim than when he's off the floor. So, and when Naz Reid's on the floor, teams take 3% more shots at the rim than when he's off the floor. So when they don't have Cat and they don't have Rudy, they really have to overcommit to cut off the rim. And they did. They overcommitted to cut off the rim. And when our guys drove into the paint on plays, they couldn't get to the rim. We only took 2 shots in the first quarter of the rim. They were getting stopped in the paint non-restricted area. And we took 8 shots in the first quarter in the paint non-restricted area. Now, we made 4 of them. That's fine. But the math on it's bad. We shoot 43% on that shot. The league shoots about 43% on that shot. It's not a good shot. It feels good. It's 6-7 feet away from the basket. It feels like it should be a good shot. It's the floater. It's all this. Particularly early in the shot clock. The league average on that shot is about 22% of your shots are that shot. And the league average of making it is it's up to 44%, which is way up, by the way, from where it used to be. It used to be about 40%. But we're suddenly taking, if the league has gotten it to the point where you're taking 22% of those shots and 30% of your overall shots are mid-range shots. And we're sitting there the other night against Minnesota, and we take 12 of our first quarter shots as paint, as non-restricted area 2s, and 8 of them as paint. That's a sign we're not moving the ball. We're driving to the basket. They got 2 guys on us, and we kicked out to 2 corner 3 shots the entire quarter. We were 1 of 6 on above the break. Now, the problem is we're not shooting well. In the second quarter, it gets even more extreme. We take 9 of those shots, paint non-restricted area, and 3 more. So we take another 12. By halftime, we've taken 24 what I would call low percentage shots. Now, we were making them. We were 13 and 24, but there's still a way to play that's right or wrong. And we weren't there. We had 5 shots at the rim. So we're driving. The Minnesota's doing a fabulous job of cutting everyone off, and everyone just shoots. The answer is come to 2 feet, flip it out, find the open guy. There has to be an open guy. There's 2 or 3 guys cutting off your drive. The game is telling you to pass. There has to be an open guy. And that is what the Jazz were not doing the other night. And that, I believe, is what led to Will Hardy's comments. We got better in the third quarter. We started to get behind the defense a little bit and ended up with 6 shots at the rim and still 7 of the floater zone shots, but still got 6 shots at the rim as Walker got behind and Colin got the ball behind. They got behind the defense. In the fourth quarter, another 8 shots in the floater zone. By the time the night was done, we had taken 15 shots at the rim. We had taken 32 shots in the floater zone. 32. That is a crazy number. Overall, that night, we took 83 shots. So 32 of our 83 shots were low percentage shots in the floater zone. Now, I'm just talking about our offense right now. And by the way, that's 39% of our shots were paint non-restricted area 2s. And what did I say the league averages? 22%. Okay. Minnesota can be doing a lot of things defensively, but nobody's forcing 39% of your shots being paint non-restricted area 2s unless you're culpable. And that's what Will Hardy's point was. Now, I have some good news on this, is the Jazz were doing basically the same thing to Minnesota a little bit. And we'll touch on that as we continue here on Locked on Jazz and touch on that amongst other things that were good signs in the game against Minnesota, and then some matchup things that will be relevant again as we play the Timberwolves tonight at 7 o'clock at Delta Center. Today's show is brought to you in part by Murdoch Chevy, located in Woods Cross, also in Logan. The Chevy lineup, the Murdoch family, it's Americana at its greatest, plus 80 years in Utah for the Murdochs. Chevy, it's Americana, the best truck on the mountain. The Colorado and the Silverado, there for you with their all the great features. In the Silverado, you feel like you're riding up above the world, feeling absolutely fabulous as you got that truck and got that power. The SUV lineup, frankly, it's just underrated. It's strong with the Trailblazer and the Blazer now in the middle, and the Equinox with obviously the Suburban and the Tahoe at the top. And the all-electric Volt is getting great reviews as well. It's all out at Murdoch Chevy, located in Woods Cross and in Logan. If you're going to head over, feel free to email me first. We'll take care of you with a VIP meeting with the Murdochs, over 80 years in Utah, and Chevy Americana, all there for you at Murdoch Chevy. Today's show is also brought to you by LinkedIn. Small businesses, if you're running a small business, I know, you know, it is brutally hard to take the time to hire. There is a time constraint for everything you're doing, and then hiring is difficult. So what do? You use LinkedIn, and LinkedIn's massive systems will work to your advantage. Here's how it works. Go to linkedin.com/lockedonnba, and you can post your job for free. Why is it going to work? Well, because LinkedIn isn't just another job board. It's a vast network of more than 1 billion professionals, which makes it the best place to hire. It gives you access to professionals you can find anywhere. It can't find anywhere. LinkedIn does all that while the process is being easy and intuitive. Here's a great number. 86% of small businesses get a qualified candidate within 24 hours. LinkedIn knows small businesses are wearing so many hats and might have time to resources to hire. LinkedIn constantly finding ways to make the process easier. They even launched a feature that helps you write job descriptions. 2.5 small businesses are using LinkedIn for a reason. LinkedIn.com/lockedonnba to post your job for free. Thanks so much for making Locked On Jazz your first listen of the day today. We are free and available on all podcasting apps. I'm pretty excited about this. We continue to innovate, do brand new things. First, we launched the first ever 24/7 national sports channel, Locked On Sports Today, which I hope you've checked out. And now we are going to launch our Major League Baseball preview show for you on our Fast TV channel first. Here's how it's going to work. Starting at 7 p.m. Eastern on Thursday, the Major League Baseball preview show is coming your direction on Locked On Sports Today on YouTube, as well as on Locked On Sports Today on Amazon Fire. If you're a Major League Baseball fan, it runs 3 hours, 7 to 10, and will take you through every single team. All 30 local experts will be there for you, giving you the Major League Baseball preview show. So check it out. It's all going to be mark it down on your calendar. It's at 7 o'clock Eastern, 5 o'clock our time if you're in the Mountain Time Zone, as I am, on Thursday on Locked On Sports Today for you there. Today, Jazz Wolves, 7 o'clock. That's on Sirius XM, as well as on KSL and on your Utah Jazz app. All right. Jazz actually did some things really well. Let's just go, we're since the trade deadline, we're last in the league in defense. So when you put up a 70 defensive rating in the first quarter, that is incredible progress. In the second quarter, we were at 111, which is still great, and the game was dead tied. And then we let go of the rope a little bit. Third quarter, we were at 136 defensive rating, and the offense really struggled at 100. And then the fourth quarter was a 161, which is really too bad. So there were some really, really good signs in that first quarter. Everyone's defensive rating on the Jazz was really, really good in the first quarter. Everybody was sub 100. Actually, interestingly, Walker's back in the starting lineup seems like the easy answer, but Walker's defensive rating actually was the least good, which surprised me a little bit. And Walker did some things really well that night. And then in the second half, it was the bench unit defense actually started. In the second quarter, the bench unit defense started to struggle. And then I don't know if, the easy answer is that the offense kind of scuffled. And that was a hard starting lineup with Chris Dunn and Keontae George, Bryce Sensabaugh, Taylor Hendricks, and Walker Kessler. You've got a lot of non-offensive players on the floor. And that kind of seemed to kick in to open the third quarter. The offensive rating of the starters, I think, was an 81 when they were on the floor to open up that quarter. And then the defense really kind of let go of the rope after that. There were some interesting things in that game. The main one is that Anthony Edwards is just too good. I mean, this is kind of crazy. Anthony Edwards just torched everybody that night. And he is that good. He's a two-time All-Star. The playoffs are going to be his chance to shine. But Anthony Edwards got switched onto Walker Kessler a bunch of times in that game. 14% about 11% of his offensive time, he was on the floor against Walker. He shoots 7 of 9. He has 2 assists. He does have a turnover. He goes 2 of 2 from 3. He scores 17 points in 9 shots against Walker, and the team scores 30 points when they were matched up against each other. So they were all short possessions. They're, basically a few things. One is, it looks to me like they were matched up about, a limited amount, 12 possessions, and he shot 9 of them and passed twice. And turned it over once. Like Anthony Edwards wasn't kidding around. When he got marched up on Walker, he was just going to work. Now, okay, but he also went 3 for 4 against Chris Dunn, 3 for 5 against Taylor Hendricks, 3 for 3 against Johnny Juzang, 2 for 3 against Bryce Sensabaugh. The only, 1 for 3 against Colin, 0 for 2 against Omer Yurtseven. He really torched everyone. He's just a matchup we couldn't handle. And he's really kind of their only offensive player when they, Mike Conley goes and buries a bunch of threes and hits a bunch of shots and was great for them. But it was interesting, you've got to find a way to deal with Ant a little bit because he is the only one that's out there. Jaden McDaniels offensively is just a mess right now. He's, I think, missed 11 straight threes and hasn't really progressed. And so when they don't have Anthony Edwards on the floor, Nickeil Alexander-Walker kind of becomes one of their other scorers, and he's not particularly consistent. The other one that was interesting is Naz Reid becomes their next kind of guy. Walker did a really good job here. This was interesting. Naz Reid had a pretty good game, except for the fact when guarded by Walker, he went 1 for 8. And now they spent 40% of the time matched up against each other. He went 1 for 8 and he went 1 for 5 on pop threes. So Walker did seem to have, at least statistically, an impact there. What Reid kind of had some success is when he got switched over onto Keontae and hit some threes there. He is a 50% above the break 3-point shooter. I asked Will the other night, the Jazz are allowing just a crazy amount, crazy high percentage of 3-point shooting against them right now. I mean, it just honestly doesn't totally make sense. And so I asked Will, how much do you think this is the fact that you're having some bad luck right now? How much of it do you think is the fact that you're that you have that you're not closing out as well as you should, I guess is really the way to say it. And he was pretty clear that he thought it was a combination of both, which I thought was interesting. And I give Will credit kind of for taking that right now and not just ducking under it. But his feeling was that there is a level where the Jazz are just not getting close. They're not coming with enough force in their closeouts, and that's allowing some of this shooting. But the opponent shooting against the Jazz right now is a little much. It should cool off at some point in time here. Just when you start to kind of look at what teams are doing and how they're doing it against the Jazz, there's just doesn't all match up right now. the teams I think are shooting 43% on open threes against the Jazz recently, which is just too high, frankly. So it should kind of cool down a little bit. Tonight will be interesting just because I think we have different players. Rudy seems more likely to go. And then the Jazz, from the injury report, looks like Lauri Markkanen's a step closer, as well as it does look as though we're a step closer to having, and John Collins is not on the injured list after resting, nor is Chris Dunn. So the Jazz are without Jordan Clarkson with his right groin strain, but otherwise, if Lowry goes, we're at pretty much full strength here against a team that will be without Karl Anthony Towns, but also might be at relative full strength. So that should be a little bit of a different game for the Jazz if they get Lowry back, get that defensive length back also. Should help them a good deal. And then maybe most importantly, just offensively, it's just not such a struggle every single minute, because that game the other night was certainly a struggle for the Jazz offensively. It's a Trends Monday. Where's the league going? Who's going where? And what's happening? We'll touch on it here next as we continue on Locked On Jazz. If you are like me, where you kind of would like to look good, even though I look like this every morning when I do the show, and you would like to have some style, but it's not your forte, and frankly, you don't really have a lot of time, or even if you did go to the grocery store, that maybe sums it up. If I did go to, Nordstrom Rack, whatever, I just don't have it. Like, I don't know what to do. Well, this is where Stitch Fix comes in. Stitch Fix is a pretty neat product for you and can do some fabulous things. So I just did this. It gave me a little confidence too while playing with it. The other day I went into Stitch Fix and they take you through this really cool long survey, not long like cumbersome, but long like, hey, do you like this or this? Do you like this or this? Click on the style you like. And, if you want sweats and cool cash, if you want to be a little bit more stylish, if you're 53 years old and you're caught somewhere in between like I am, then you answer the questions and then you get a stylist that sends you the just right pieces to fit with a fit on point. It's like having ESP for a stylist. It's pretty cool. They send you a box which has all of your clothes in it, and then you decide which ones work. It's the 5 just for me pieces, outfit recommendations and pro styling advice as well. Stitch Fix makes it easy. So if you don't like to shop, don't know how to shop well, want to save time, same effort, but get the outfits and look good, this is the answer. If you don't love something, you just send it back. Shipping, return, and exchange are always free. Style that makes you feel good and make you look good, gets you started today and gives you a little confidence to do it right. StitchFix.com/lockedon. That's StitchFix.com/lockedon. StitchFix.com/lockedon. Every Monday on the show, we like to take a second and give you what we call Trends Monday, and it's a chance for us to look at what's going on in the league, maybe get us to watch the league a little bit better with a little bit more understanding of what's taking place, and also as we head down the stretch here, have a little bit of an idea of maybe, what is it that where's the league heading? So we look at the last 10 games of both the offense and defensive ratings and overall ratings, and then we go to the non-blowout minutes of the last 2 weeks. So it's a little bit more of a macro trend and then a micro trend. They're usually similar, but they should jump out a little bit. Boston is the best offense in the NBA over the last 10 games, followed by Dallas, which is worth noting because Kyrie's played all 10 games, and that team's offense, we thought would be great. What a game winner from Kyrie last night. That just was mind-blowing. This is interesting. The Lakers over the last 10 games are the 3rd best offense in the NBA. I would not have anticipated that. Denver is 4th, Pelicans are 5th, and Milwaukee is 6th. The teams and we're 13th, so give Will Hardy credit for kind of rebuilding that. The teams that are having a hard time scoring right now are Memphis, Toronto, Charlotte, Detroit, New York, Washington, and then Cleveland. So that's worth noting on Cleveland. They really are scuffling scoring right now as Donovan works his way in and out of the lineup and having some knee issues. The best defensive team in the NBA right now is the Knicks, followed by the Magic, and then by a lot. Those two are way better than everyone else. Then the Pelicans, the Celtics, and the Rockets. So those are the top 10 teams. M.A. Udoka's still got the Rockets playing hard. And Minnesota is 6th. Their defense has slipped a little bit since Karl Anthony Towns went out, which is weird. We're last defensively, followed by the Wizards. And then the Lakers are not defending at all, which is certainly newsworthy. The Bulls, the Raptors, and then the Mavericks, not surprisingly. And the Clippers, who are just 5-5 in their last 10. They're just 8-10 of their last 18. They've lost 4 of their last 5. Got blown out last night playing their 6th game in 8 nights against Atlanta. They are they're 20th. For all the talk of Doc Rivers changing Milwaukee, they're still 23rd in the league defensively over the last 10 games. So I'm not sure how many of those changes are really taking place. The hottest teams in the NBA, Boston's plus net rating over the last 10 games is a plus 19. I mean, forget about it. They're so much better than everyone right now. Though Denver is just charging. Pelicans are +10. They're the darlings right now. Nuggets are +8. Orlando's +8. And Houston, who's won 7 of 10, is +4. Thunder are +4 as well. Teams that are really scuffling. Toronto, who really has lost Scotty Barnes and frankly needs to lose an alarming rate of games here to try to get a draft pick. Washington, Memphis, Utah, Charlotte, and then the Philadelphia 76ers still without Joel Embiid, really struggling. Detroit and Portland are playing a little bit better on each side. Now let's look at the more macro trend of the last 2 weeks and see if we see anything else different. So that first one is kind of the last 10 games of everyone is what we were looking at. And now this gets into more of like the last 5 or 6 games. Boston's still the number 1 offense. The Lakers are 2, Dallas 3, Indiana pops up there at 4. Houston is 5, and Phoenix is 6 as they've gotten healthy. Their offenses that are struggling: Charlotte, New York, Toronto, Philadelphia, Washington, Memphis, and Detroit. Defenses that are the best are New York by 10 points per 100 possessions in the last 6 games, and they've got their guys back, so keep an eye on that. They really were very, very good when they got OG and now they have everybody back. Orlando second, then big drop to New Orleans, Houston, Indiana, and Detroit, 5th best defense. Thompson Twins are figuring it out a little bit. Indiana also in there defensively, so that's kind of surprising. We're last defensively. Milwaukee's 29th in the last 7 games. So, again, the narrative that Doc Rivers has changed his team defensively may not be true. Chicago 28th, Portland, Clippers 26th defensively, maybe tired. Toronto 25th, Lakers 24th. Overall, point differential in the last about 2 weeks, Boston's 1, Houston's 2, New Orleans 3, Indiana 4, New York 5, Dallas 6, Denver 7. Interesting to see. And then the team struggling most: Toronto, Washington, Portland, Charlotte, Utah, Memphis, Philly in here, and then Brooklyn as well. That is your Trends Monday. That is Locked On Jazz. Today will be Jazz and the Timberwolves. See if we get Lowry and John Collins back. See if the Jazz can put together a little bit better offensive performance and allow that improved defense to not wear out as the game goes on. And how do they deal with Anthony Edwards, something they could not do the other night? We'll see what they do with that tonight. That is Locked On Jazz today. Thanks so much for tuning in and have a great one. Talk to you soon.